Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Today I will talk about a very important issue, the constitutional crisis in the US and the unrestrained power of the fourth estate or the fourth power, the media, and how we can deal with it. First, let's watch two funny cartoons created by Chinese netizens. The first one shows Trump carrying a child, a family photo, a blanket, and a plastic bag, like many other Chinese politicians on their way to Beijing to seek justice. The Chinese caption says, "I'm on my way to petition. See you at the court." Maybe only Chinese people can fully understand and feel the humor and the bitterness behind this cartoon. In China, because of lack of justice, rule of law, and because of the corruption found with local CCP officials, many Chinese people have to go to Beijing or the capital cities in their provinces to try to see if they can have their cases heard by higher authorities. Some of them spend years, even decades, on their way to seek justice, but still can't get it. Some become bankrupt and lose their homes, and some even end up in jail. That's why they need to carry a blanket with them on their way to petition, as they don't have the money to stay in a hotel and have to sleep on the street. So, in some Chinese netizens' eyes, President Trump's situation and the treatment he got are very similar to that of the Chinese petitioners. Another cartoon looks very similar, only what he holds with his right hand is a piece of paper with a Chinese word, round. The Chinese character on the bag in his left hand are documents. The caption also says, "I'm on my way to petition. See you at the court." I'm not sure if you found the cartoons funny and laughable. They are widely circulated among many Chinese netizens to reflect their understanding of President Trump's situation. For me, they do make a lot of sense, as like some of the Chinese petitioners, what Trump is up against is huge. So, what exactly is Trump up against? First of all, it's the almighty media. I witnessed the first instance of the almighty media in April 2016. I was working as the news director for the Los Angeles branch of Newtown Dynasty Television, NTD TV. At that time, Trump was very early in his presidential candidacy. Not many people took him seriously or thought that he had any chance to win. He was yet to beat the other 15 Republican candidates. Some of them look far more qualified than him. Anyway, on April 28th, 2016, Trump went to Orange County in Los Angeles to do a rally, and I sent a crew to the rally to cover the event. Hours before the rally started, some people, perhaps nearly 100, started to protest outside. Several people jumped onto a police car, trampled all over it, and did a lot of damage. Several so-called mainstream media sent helicopters to the site and did a live broadcast of the protest. Seeing that helicopters were live streaming their actions, those protesters became more excited and did more damage. I watched the live streaming for hours without knowing what exactly happened inside the venue. After my reporter came back, I asked him what happened with the rally. He showed me some interviews he did with the supporters, with each of them expressing eagerly why they were there to support. So, what I saw from my cruise footage was a totally different story from what I watched from the mainstream media. These incidents impressed me so much that I could never forget it. So, on November the 10th, 2016, several days after Trump won the election, when many people were still feeling very much shocked by the result, I posted on my Facebook such a post, quote, "Why were so many people so shocked by Trump's victory? Why were the polls so wrong? Because people have been watching the wrong media." Here is an example. For the same events of Trump's on April 28, 2016 in California, if you watch the typical Western mainstream media, you pretty much only see the violence and turbulence. You fail to see that Trump has a lot of supporters and why they support him. On that day, there were more than 8,000 supporters and only 100 plus protesters. If you watch NTD, you get different and fair coverage. NTD's news title, "Trump's Rally in Orange County Attracts 8,000 Supporters," unquote. And here are some news titles from other media I listed in that Facebook post, quote, "Trump rally protesters damage police cars, block roads. Police cars smashed during protest outside Trump rally. Police cars smashed during anti-Trump protest outside rally in Orange County, nearly 20 arrested. Protests get violent in Costa Mesa as Trump rally draws to a close. More than a dozen arrested as protests turn violent outside California Trump rally. The latest, hundreds turned away from Trump rally in OC. Protesters swarmed Donald Trump's rally in California. Trump supporters, protesters clash in California, 20 arrested," unquote. From that day on, I knew how wrong, how biased the so-called mainstream media could be, and eventually I stopped watching or reading them at all. I had been persisting in reading at least one news piece and one commentary every day to learn what was happening and to improve my English. Now, the situation is even worse than 4 years ago. After getting it very wrong with the previous election, instead of reflecting on why they got it wrong, the so-called mainstream media have almost become activists or active players in the battleground, and they want to dictate the course of events so that they can turn the wrong reports into right ones. Yes, that's what the mainstream media has been doing in the past 4 years. Not only the mainstream media, but also the major social media platforms. Because they have the power, they started to censor people's speeches, delete and suspend people's accounts, including President Trump's account. They can just willfully flag or censor anybody's posts or tweets according to what they like or don't like. They become the standard of what is right and what is wrong, and what can be said and spread and what cannot. Remember in March and April, after having a meeting with the WHO, these social media platforms also censored any views, news, facts about COVID-19 pandemic if what you said didn't agree with what the WHO said. Almost all my YouTube videos during that period of time were given a yellow flag, which means limited for ads. But what happened a little while later? We all found out that the WHO had been helping the CCP to cover up the pandemic. If it had not, the world would not have been misled so badly, and so many lives could have been saved instead of being killed by the virus. And what did we learn from that lesson? It seems that nobody has learned anything. These social media platforms continue to play God and make judgment on everyone. If anyone has something to say about the election that they don't like, they either delete your post or suppress it. What will we have to lose this time? Yesterday, I retweeted a tweet by Chinese dissident Tang Baiqiao. He put 3 pictures of newspapers from China, Hong Kong, and the US, and his text goes like this, quote, "The style of media on both sides of the street is becoming more and more consistent. In this case, the both sides refer to the US and the CCP's China. Who says that US media can't learn from the CCP's media?" And my retweet says this, quote, "American newspapers are looking like the CCP's with similar uniformed headlines and photos. In CCP's China, the propaganda department, sometimes the Xinhua News Agency, provides the standard scripts photos to all the media. Who is providing the same stuff to the US media?" Unquote. Frankly speaking, I was a little shocked to see how so many different Western newspapers were using exactly the same headlines to report about the US election. I only saw this happen in China before. That's why both Mr. Tang Baiqiao and myself became very alarmed when seeing this happening right in front of our eyes in a country that is supposed to be the great beacon of liberty. 3 years ago, in 2017, I wrote a Chinese article titled, "The President and the Media Are at War. Who has the upper hand?" I said, quote, "As far as I can see, the media has a bigger advantage in this war. First, the media has a much larger audience than the president. Second, the media can look very professional and respectful. They can do damage to people without swearing or using dirty words. On the other hand, if the president picks up a fight with the media and uses nasty words, people will say that he's not graceful and generous, and he will be criticized like hell. And why do I choose to criticize the media instead of the president? In a democratic country like the US, the media has accumulated a great deal of invisible public power and voice over hundreds of years, thanks to the guaranteeing of freedom of speech. In the West, journalists are called the uncrowned kings, and from this perspective, they may have even more power than the presidents, or at least the same amount of power. How does the media use such invisible public power after they gain it? This is a question that every media and journalist with a conscience should ask themselves. Have I become too arrogant and prejudiced because of this power? Can I honestly look at the big picture instead of going off the deep end and getting involved in trivial things endlessly? Can I distinguish between true good and evil? Can I speak out when I see injustice?" Unquote. Many people are saying and worrying that the US might sink into a constitutional crisis because of this highly contested and controversial election. According to Chinese scholar Zhang Ping, who is a professor at Tel Aviv University in Israel, the West is experiencing 4 crises, including political correctness, racial division, disappearance of the middle class, and the unrestrained expansion of the media's power. While the other 3 major powers of the society, legislature, executive, judiciary, can be checked and balanced among themselves, the 4th estate or the 4th power, the media, has nothing that can check or balance it. Like in this election, before any state certifies the election results, before the lawful institution makes the decision, while knowing that lawsuits are still going on, almost all of the media have announced their winner. Sasha Gong, a former Voice of America VOA journalist, posted a guideline on Joe Biden as the president-elect of the VOA on Twitter, which says, if it wasn't clear previously, VOA is projecting Joe Biden is the president-elect. You can say that there are still votes to count and lawsuits to file, but Biden is the election winner. Unquote. Sasha Gong says in Chinese that every reporter has to stick to the guideline and anyone who disobeys can be punished. This is really dangerous if, while we are already in the middle of a constitutional crisis, the force power, the power of the media can expand without checks or balances. Maybe the only power that can check and balance it is we the people. While the media can brainwash us by making up stories and control what kind of information we can get, we the people can use our common sense and better judgment to beat them. If we the people, we the reader, we the audience boycott the biased media, look for and support alternative voices like myself, they will lose their power or even collapse in no time. That's all for today. Please make sure you subscribe to and share my channel and check out my other videos. Thank you. See you soon.